I'm Allendale Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Not a lot of major impact in the weather right now, but as we kind of look forward as we go through the weekend, there is potentially some big impact coming in the weather sphere. What we're talking about is a system that's coming out of the Central Plains and moving across the Corn Belt over the course of the weekend. Right now, it looks like the bulk of this moisture is lagging a bit, probably working its way through the plains and the Corn Belt at about the same time. You say, how's that possible? Well, the first phase of this is where the low was actually still back down and impacting the Central Plains, but we're going to be seeing plenty of moisture kind of running over the top and working its way up into the Corn Belt ahead of it. That leads to some snows, some accumulating snows across parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio as we go from Saturday through Sunday and into early Monday, while the main body of the low is still back down to the south and west. That main body low will kick out, and it will work its way up into the Corn Belt as we go into next week, probably Tuesday, Wednesday. The big problem here is models are saying there's going to be a big push of warmer air circulating into the center of that low, enough to make most of the precipitation come as rain, the way the models are saying right now. I'm not ready to jump on that horse yet. Now, you've probably heard me say this yesterday as well. I am a firm believer that the cold air is stronger than what models are suggesting right now. Models do not handle warm air advection or warm air moving into an area as good as they probably should, given all circumstances. So I'm not closing the door on some significant snows coming out of this big moisture system for next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think if they happen, it would be north of I-70. But I'll also say this. We probably should hope for it to be mostly rain across the Corn Belt, because if not, it's going to be a massive snow event. We're seeing liquid equivalents next week, an inch or more. So even if it's all rain, we're going to have to talk about some flooding issues. Right now for the snow in hard red winter wheat country, Central Plains, as we go through this weekend, probably looking at 3 to 6 inches, maybe slightly higher amounts the closer you get to the low. Then as we go across the Corn Belt, looking at 3 to 6 inches as well. Although it's going to be more of a slow and steady pace, it looks like snow is going to happen all day long on Sunday across Indiana and Ohio, Saturday afternoon late through Sunday in Illinois. Now, after this system is done, whether we deal with the rain or the snow, what have you next week, behind it we do see another push of cold air. Models at this point, though, continue to try and bring at least a brief period of warm air in as we go through the end of next week, the weekend, and into the week following. It's not a long-term push in my estimation, although the U.S. model continues to try and make this a little bit more of a deal for longer. We see another push of bitter cold Arctic air trying to come in behind that slight warm-up, so that of the first 15, 16 days of March, we're thinking a good 11 to 12 of them are going to be below normal, enough to keep the month on the whole below normal. Places that might be a little bit more susceptible to the warm-up will be back in the western high plains, even parts of the hard red winter wheat belt. Could be interesting there because you get moisture to come through this weekend, you warm it up next week, all of that moisture could immediately go to use on wheat crop out there. So it might be an interesting scenario to watch unfold there. Generally speaking, though, we think models are probably just a little bit too warm across a large part of the region here as we go through late next week and into the week following. International weather, looking at a little bit better moisture starting to work into Brazil soybean areas in the days ahead. Maybe not so much this weekend, but as we go into next week, we could see some action there. Might slow harvest just a little bit. Still looks to be very hit and miss. Not really frontal boundary related. I see a stronger front working through Brazil toward the end of next week. But between now and then, frontal action appears to be limited to mostly extreme southeastern parts of Brazil. Paraná, Mato Grosso, do Sul, down into Rio Grande do Sul. Those are the areas that may be under some frontal impact. The rest of the bean area, not so much. So hit and miss, that's probably the way to look at things going forward. And the biggest question now is going to be, all right, how much of the second crop corn is planted? Their drop-dead date to get that done was recently here, so how long do they go afterwards? If a weather break continues to hold or works into some of these second crop corn areas early this coming week, do they still plant corn? That'll be the big question we have to ask. Right now, it doesn't look like that will be a big question because, honestly, we just see a slow uptick in our moisture over the course of the next 5 to 6 days. If they don't have it done now, chances will get slimmer and slimmer that they can get it done early next week. That's what we've got in your forecast here at midday. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.